Hey folks, in order to provide you with more value, I've decided to embark on a new kind of content creation. Previously, I have attempted to limit the amount of information I give you regarding what goes on here in South Africa. Mostly because every time I tell you something about this country, it tends to be bad news. But I've realized that simply making art every day probably isn't providing you with as much value as I otherwise could. So from now on, what I'm going to try to do is to pick one relevant news story or current event every day and produce a video on it so that you can get an inside perspective of what life is really like in South Africa. The first story I'm going to read you is going to sound absurd and shocking, but this kind of thing happens all the time. It is entitled Gauteng Police Station Robbed of 10 Guns by Men Pretending to Report Hijacking. And it reads as follows. 3 police rifles and 7 pistols are now in the hands of criminals after police officers at Devon Police Station in Ekurhuleni were robbed of firearms. National Police spokesperson Colonel Aslenda Mate said they have now actioned maximum resources to recover the firearms. She said Provincial Commissioner Lieutenant General Elias Mawela was on Wednesday visiting the station, which was robbed in the early hours of the morning. According to a preliminary investigation, 3 suspects entered the station during the early hours of Wednesday morning, that's today by the way, under the pretense that they were reporting a hijacking incident. The trio then managed to disarm officers and made off with 10 firearms, she said. Mata said that the Employee Health and Wellness Unit had been sent to the station to provide psychological services to the officers. And that article was written by Tebogo Monama. Just for the sake of reference, all the articles that I intend to relay to you will come from News 24, which is South Africa's leading publishing house. Now, when I say that it's the leading publishing house, that doesn't mean that I'm saying it's trustworthy. What I'm just trying to say is that it is the most likely to report events accurately. Now, getting back to the story. It may seem ridiculous to you that criminals could literally walk into a police station and disarm police officers. But sadly, that's an almost weekly occurrence here in South Africa, because our cops are either incompetent, poorly trained, or criminals themselves. That's why when something serious happens, whether it's a robbery, a shooting, any kind of crime really, and particularly the riots that took place here in KwaZulu-Natal last July, the police are not who we call first. In fact, they are generally the ones who show up the very last whenever anything happens. In South Africa, the reality is that when you need help, it's your local community as well as private security organizations that will come to your aid. If you are expecting police to save or protect you, you're going to be out of luck. I'm sort of sad that I couldn't start this new branch of content creation off on a happier note, but as I said, my aim is to provide you with an honest inside perspective of what life here in South Africa is really like. So look after yourselves, be thankful you don't live here, and for now, farewell.